to you today on a Tuesday, but the morning after. My name is Zenzel Ndebele and welcome to the Breakfast Club. Today I'm talking to Gifford Spanda, a political analyst, a media person, political. Are you a political activist? Or?
Not specifically. Party political activist.
Not, yeah, so, and Zimbabweans always have many titles. And basically, yeah, we will be talking largely about what happened yesterday. I think we all now know that yesterday the president of Zimbabwe, with his powers vested on him, decided to fire the Vice President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Mnangagwa, and there has been those talks, and we know that from Saturday there was a lot of talk, and Sunday the rhetoric was just going up. Grace Mugabe calling the sacking of Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa, and we have seen provinces endorsing or making resolutions that Mnangagwa should be fired, and eventually yesterday it happened, and Emmerson Mnangagwa was fired. From what I get, or from Simon Kamo's statement, from being the vice president of the party, of the country, and we have decided to invite Gifford here so that we talk about it and we see what does it mean for ZANU-PF, what does it mean for the ordinary Zimbabwean, what does it mean for the politics of Zimbabwe. And to start with Gifford, I want to find out one thing. So Mnangagwa was fired from government, but he still remains the vice president of ZANU-PF.
It depends where you stand on. Mugabe is the appointing authority within the state, and it also remains the appointing authority within ZANU-PF. So in both scenarios, or in both incidents, Emmerson Mnangagwa was serving at the pleasure of Robert Mugabe as the president of Zimbabwe and as the first secretary of ZANU-PF. So if he was disloyal on the state, he can therefore be loyal on the party. But then technically, it can be argued that he can still be the vice president of the party, but it can be resigned either within the Politburo, the Central Committee, in the next few days, or wait for the Congress by the end of the year. But then his political career has been the issue, as we have seen previous with the Mjurus, and we have seen with the Mdasas. If we are done on the state part, we are also done on the party part.
So we have, this is... somehow, I talked to a few guys who are basically Mnangagwa loyalists, who could not believe that a man who has worked with Mugabe for nearly 54 years or more, is finally, just chased like that. And, someone said to me, you know what, don't forget the story of Samson, who was, misled by Delilah. Do you think someone politically is going to lose his dreadlocks and his eyes in the end?
Basically, people who are so much believers in Emmerson Mnangagwa are actually blind of other historical factors that you can be able to use to see where we are going into the future. Robert Mugabe was invited by Joshua Nkomo to join the struggle, and later they formed their ZANU, defecting from ZAPU. And at some point, Joshua Nkomo to run for his dear life when Robert Mugabe defeated Kukuraundi. Not to talk about the loss of the Zipra forces in Kakai. So to Robert Mugabe, loyalty means nothing. He just has no memory when actually his future is at stake, where his power is at stake. You see, Emmerson Mnangagwa was a man who was there, stayed in the shadow of Robert Mugabe. He has always been serving at the pleasure. Even historians tell us that in 1977, Emmerson was invited to join Robert Mugabe in Mozambique as an aide. Yeah? So he served at the pleasure of Robert Mugabe from 1977 up to the present. You see, so it means he had no major stake that he brought into the table. He was only there because Robert Mugabe found him useful. And unfortunately, up to yesterday, or should say up to that rally in Bulawayo, Emmerson Mnangagwa thought he was still useful. They thought he was still a big guy, just like the story of that donkey when it entered into when the triumphal entry to Jerusalem when Jesus Christ was on his back. It thought like people were clapping hands, they were relating over it, but the story was about the man who was on the back of the donkey.
So when the donkey decided to go on his own, it found that no one else was interested.
Yeah, no one else was. No one could even notice it on the street.
So, this is a guy who a few months ago when he was, less than a month or so ago when he was defending himself, he said he has been loyal to the party, he has been loyal to ZANU-PF and, to Robert Mugabe. And you think after all these things, Mugabe was not convinced that Emmerson Mnangagwa has been loyal?
Politically, there is generally a number one rule in politics, even espoused by Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power. He says, never seek to outshine your master. That was basically the reason why, that was the major downfall of Emmerson Mnangagwa, to them and their supporters. They thought because Mugabe was old, Mugabe was basically frail, they thought Mnangagwa was in charge, he was a higher apparent. After the dismissal of Joyce Mjuru, Mnangagwa went about even dramatizing and saying out and celebrating the dismissal of Joyce Mjuru. And he thought it actually crossed over Jordan. He thought he was already in Canaan. But then there were a lot of things in stake. There were other interests, the family interest and all other political interests that Robert Mugabe considered. Mnangagwa therefore at that particular moment. So as the history has shown with Tekere, with Joshua Nkomo at some point, anyone who's a threat to Mugabe's political power will have to be sacrificed, will have to go.
So, I mean, it's, sometimes when these things happen, and probably it happened the way that many people had not predicted. They knew that Mnangagwa might be out, but people expected Mnangagwa to be out by the time they get to the Congress. So, what does this mean for Mnangagwa, basically? From here, if you were to advise Mnangagwa today, what would you say to him?
It all depends on how clean is his hands. It depends on how clean it is. And Joyce left ZANU, she formed her own political entity. She's still trying, or she has formed her political entity. And she survived. We thought that she was going to face up some charges in courts and stuff, but she has not been charged. She has not been harassed. But we are not sure of Emmerson Mnangagwa. We are not sure, considering his hands in Kukurawundi, considering the other allegations that was seen on the leaked Politburo video. So if basically he has to tackle Robert Mugabe, must be prepared. He knows that ZANU-PF plays dirty. If he's guilty of any sort of a crime, they're not going to let him go and contest and destroy or divide the ZANU-PF power base. Yeah, once they are sitting on their laurels, they won't allow him to do that. So basically, if he knows that he has got a lot of skeletons on the cupboard, he would rather stay at home, look after his cake, or even pursue, even protect his business interest. But however, if he believes he still can grab power, if he believes he still has got a lot of supporters than Robert Mugabe, as was the challenge over the White City rally, then he can still go back to he can still go to the ground, mobilize his supporters, and be ready for elections, which will come perhaps next year or another time. But having seen Simba Makoni leave ZANU, having seen even Tekere leave ZANU at some point, their impact on the national politics in Zimbabwe is actually limited. They seem to be less effective in mobilization, they seem to be less effective in reaching to the grassroots. So perhaps Mnangagwa, if I presume he has been popular at the top, but not on the ground, but not on the grassroots person, because I don't see making much of impression within the Matabele and the 3 provinces. I don't see making much impact within outside Masvingo and Mikens, because perhaps by Mugabe's acknowledgement over the weekend that he may be popular in Mikens and Masvingo, but those are merely 2 provinces. You see, and even because of numbers that we have seen, the people that have just to vote, they don't carry the much vote to put him into status at the present moment.
This is the guy who, a few months ago, it looked like he had almost taken over. If you look at the way the Herald or the state media was covering him, we were getting the assumption that he controls the judiciary, he has the army on his side, he has most of the provinces on his side, and all of a sudden he's a nobody. Do you think these structures that we were made to believe that support him are going to go out, and probably within ZANU-PF, for example, do you think that we are going to see people resigning, saying that we are in support of Mnangagwa, or MPs rebelling, or ministers resigning who are said to be loyal to Mnangagwa?
Was it in 2004 during the Dinyane period? Mnangagwa had more present provinces that had actually endorsed him as a presidential candidate. So at that particular moment, he had more political power as opposed to now, where the particular provinces are not even determined. You see, so when those particular provincial champions and all the paging that came up, Mnangagwa was not prepared to leave, or was not prepared to provide leadership towards setting up of a political party ahead of their Congress or ahead of the elections that came thereafter. So I don't necessarily think, we read recently on the papers, if you were to look at the issue of the members of parliament, the members of parliament are saying, give us our 15 million, that is more of a job than of service. So are you prepared to leave your constituency and go with Emmerson Mnangagwa, where you don't know if you are going to win that particular election? You see, those that left to tender bid some other time, they still owe, they lost huge amounts of money for the 4 registers that they got. So are people prepared to live and go to live those luxuries, to live those particular privileges of sleeping in hotels and driving luxurious vehicles, all in pursuit to protect the interests of Emmerson Mnangagwa? I don't really see that particular happening. The military is serving under the pleasure, or the pleasure of the commander-in-chief, and the commander-in-chief is the sitting president. You see, any other general, if ever there was anything they could have done it even yesterday. You see, and say, Mnangagwa, you can't go. You see, but then they can't do that. One, there's a constitutional implication saying which is basically illegal. You can't go against the orders of the president. And again, the president is the one who's got authority to fire the military personnel. So they can't do it except for the judiciary. I'm not really sure if he really controls much of the judiciary, but we saw the politicization as the people in the corridor speak of Reiko, but the prosecutor general was said to on this particular camp was his name was gazetted but was not sworn in, and now they've re-advertised for that particular position. I don't think it retains much influence there. But as they say, people and even the generals understand that a letter simple from Robert Mugabe that says you have been disappointed, it means they're going to go to be jobless. And a lot of influence will be lost at that particular moment. I don't see them moving out, going out there out of the election. But on the issue of an election, how will it work? Whose favor will the early election work on? Will it work on Emmerson Mnangagwa, or will it work on the sitting on the incumbent president, who still has got the resources, who has got all these particular other privileges that are still associated with the power of incumbents? You see, will he be able to, let's say if they withdraw from parliament in the next week, within the next 3 months, will they be able to form a podcast structures? Will they be able to reach out to the grassroots? Will they be able to come in, unless they've been preparing outside, they don't pay for all this law, which we are yet to see.
So, this is maybe where you find that politicians are by nature opportunists, because the other thing is we have been told, or we have heard over the years that people, or even Jonathan accused Mnangagwa that, you know what, people do dirty job for you. But once these people are fired from the party, you don't protect them. We know that there are a lot of people, the youths, the Mtswangwas of this world, and the vets, were basically chased from ZANU-PF, or expelled from ZANU-PF for supporting Emmerson Mnangagwa. Now his turn has been fired from the party. Do we see the war veterans, mobilizing on his behalf, saying, it's our leader? Because if he doesn't mobilize, that means politically he's dead.
The voice of the war veterans are coming here on the strength that they've got the protection of a sitting vice president, if they are his allies. But he has numerous occasions denied that. But politically, you can see from the languages, from the messages that they are putting out, that they are protecting him. We have heard them, the Mtsanga part of the war veterans saying if it does not take over, there will be bloodshed at some point. But then, are they now going to speak? How are they clean? How clean are they now? How vulnerable are they, considering now that the vice president is gone? You look at the issue of a simple issue. Nathaniel Manero, George Charambo, was writing, before he retired, his article a few months ago. He was writing brilliantly, but yesterday, he was sitting next to Kamo as Kamo was announcing the firing of Emmerson Mnangagwa. But recently, he was telling the whole world, Jonathan, you won't even be there when this thing is discussed. The ZANU-PF has got its own people. You're not even amongst the hierarchy.
Yeah, he's the guy who was saying chin chin.
Yeah, chin chin. But now he was sitting there. Firing. To which, if it was a man who knew his self-worth, worth his soul, he should have said, no, President, I'm not going to sit there and fire in a statement where my mentor or where my ideal president has been fired.
Does this, we are saying, Emmerson Mnangagwa, if he doesn't do anything, he will go the way of the Tekeres or the Njurus of this world. So we yet to see whether he's really going to mobilize, whether he has the support that he has, been given. Because we have been given this thing, or it's a myth that, this guy is all powerful, he can mobilize, he can swing the election, he's the one who, made ZANU-PF to win in 2008. He has, he's brutal kind of thing. But what does it mean to ZANU-PF? Is his firing going to create a dent or force, change the elections in terms of affecting the results?
First, basically, we must understand that ZANU-PF, for the past time since it was formed, since Robert Mugabe took the reins in the 1970s up to now, it has always been branded around Robert Mugabe. It has provided a feeding trough to his supporters. People now rely on Mugabe's name to amass wealth. People rely on Mugabe's wealth for protection for a lot of other, some even illegal issues. So will the firing of Emmerson Mnangagwa really make him much more attractive outside ZANU? Does he still carry the fitting craft? It doesn't. Will he guarantee protection for those that basically have got the scriptures with their couples? He won't. You see, for those particular time until Pepsi has run, he has won the election. So now Mugabe is seeking basically to challenge them and say, if you can, go and mobilize outside ZANU, leave me here with my United House supposedly behind my Mugabe, Grace, and the so-called G40 faction. So I don't necessarily see the people, those particular people, making much of impact, basically for the reason that it's just less than a year towards an election. Even their resources. We saw Jonathan, Professor Mo tweeting on Twitter some other time on how they've amassed the command agriculture thing. Now, do they still have those particular resources, which we don't know? Will the state pay so now do a forensic audit on that particular thing? Do we see people going to be charged criminally? So I know if they are to pursue a political path, if Mnangagwa is to pursue a political path, a lot of things will be done to distract him from pursuing that political path, either through the courts or other political. It is going to be very tedious and a very long journey to that particular election period for him personally, his family, and any other person.
This is where I think, I mean, when Joyce Mujuru was fired, it was 2014. A year after elections, ZANU-PF had won a majority. They had 5 years to deal with the internal structures and all those who are rebelling against them. So they were not in a hurry at the time. But they are firing Emmerson Mnangagwa and even talking of firing 38 other people who are loyal to Mnangagwa. This includes the likes of Patrick Shinamasa, the guys in Masvingo, Josiah, where there is even talk of people like Kembo Mahadi, this side, Matuke, and most of the senior guys, Mike Madiro, Mufumira, Priscilla Mufumira, and many others. Can Zambia afford to fire all these people from all these provinces less than a year before an election?
Yes. For a simple reason that ZANU-PF is confident to win the 2013 election, for whatever reason, for the past nine rallies that they've held, or the 10 the church people and the students that is coming up, they are very confident of winning the next election. And again, in the absence of an opposition, with the landmark failure of Zim Asset, 2013 election is not going to be fought over policies. ZANU-PF want a punching bag, want somebody to blame, want somebody who's going to be a credible opponent out there. And the only person they can be able to be talking about these things, who is a source of government failure in terms of programs, will be Emmerson Mnangagwa. We failed to do this because we were united. We failed to do this because Emmerson Mnangagwa was there. So now vote for us in his absence and make sure that we're able to do. And some of the things that will be come up in the next few months as we run towards the election will be quite interesting. Some exposés will leave some of people shocked, whether real or unreal. You see, so they are quite confident of that particular part, going towards that particular, that they're going to win the election. And again, also, you'll realize that ZANU-PF is turning away from the old guard in terms of being their chief mobilizer towards an election. We have seen the rise of Chibanga and the youth and the women, you see, we are relatively younger. They've seen that the revolutionary group is the liberation group is turning towards their twilight. They're going towards the end of they're just now so few. But the youth, those that are coming up, some will be voting for the first time, that were born in 2099. They're voting for the first time now. So they're trying to make ZANU-PF more appealing to the younger people. You see, so they're re-energizing their move, they're re-energizing their missionary. So the relevance of Mtswangwa, the relevance of Emmerson Mnangagwa, the relevance of all these other people is not very much of concern to them, but they're seeing that they're grabbing the larger part of the population who are going to be excited to be voting for the first time in 2018. You see.
So, I mean, is this an opportunity for the opposition to say, the ZANU-PF is divided, and there is an election coming up? Can the opposition grab this chance to their advantage?
How would they grab it? The opposition, the only thing that will hear basically that you have been so popular, the opposition will be to say, we welcome Emmerson Mnangagwa is bringing up the fresh energy. He knows all these things in ZANU-PF. We want him to be part of that. You see. So in terms of presence in the ground, opposition is dead. It's not there. It's not the ZANU-PF on holding rallies. They've been reaching out to over 1.8 million people. They are farming inputs and implements on daily basis. They're talking to these particular people. Opposition is still on an alliance path. They're still to form and agree on an alliance on a broader church in terms of an alliance. The leader who's supposed to be the president candidate is ailing and is sick in hospital. They're not doing anything about it. They're not even there on the ground. So in the event that the election is called in the next 3 or 4 months, which there is a possibility, the MPs are getting paid. The first 4 million, they're left with 11 million. If they're paid before December, Mugabe can call for election early next year. Yeah, and then because the opposition is still unprepared. You see, so I don't see much in terms of energy that Emmerson Mnangagwa can be able to bring. As we saw with Mjuru, we're so excited that Mjuru is going to tell us about the rigging secrets and all these particular things. But she was even shocked about what the opposition told her about the issue of IDs and so forth. She has no information. It shows that the people that are running the election are not basically politicians in ZANU. There are people behind the scenes that are running all these things, that are answering perhaps to Robert Mugabe and a few people that are aware of. But most of the popular faces that we see are not even aware. They don't, that is the reason why even at some point when George Charambo was fighting, so I said, we don't even know how 2013 they don't even know how all these things, they just see the results. They don't even know how these things are done. So we can't really expect much from people that are fired from ZANU. If Mnangagwa was really worthy, as they were saying, Mugabe could not have fired him. We could have found a compromise behind closed doors.
So now, as it is, as of today, we have one vice president in the name of Comrade Mpogo.
Yes.
Assume, I mean, theoretically, if something happens to the president, it means that Mpogo becomes the vice president. Do you see that scenario? That is, there's a likelihood that, I mean, if Mugabe goes out of the country today, Mpogo is
acting president.
Okay. If Mugabe is incapacitated
today,
Mpogo takes off.
Becomes the acting president.
He becomes the acting president and finishes the term of the president.
Not necessarily for about 3 months and so. For about 3 months, for 90 days before he goes for the election, he will be the acting president. Yeah, perhaps that would be basically strange on the ZANU-PF culture. Now that we're being told that the break is between the Karangas and the Zezurus, that the president is a preserve of the Zezurus, they say. Now that you're going to have Ndebele again coming into the particular picture as being the temporal heir apparent, I don't know if they've considered that, but I don't necessarily see Mpogo staying for long as the acting president alone, without being somebody else being put there. Either on seniority, you can say Chombo can become the acting vice president, but he's the Minister of Finance, because he's the senior now, he's now the third senior. He's now the third senior, so I assume Emmerson Mnangagwa is left in the party, so he's the third senior as the secretary, and they've abolished the chairmanship, so that the Zezuru one is closer to power. So I don't see him staying much alone, because the whole issue is to make sure that the interests of the first family are well protected, which I think Mpogo is not even a threat. But they will need a person also who's very, very much closer, because they can't leave anything to chance.
So the assumption is that we have started having provinces, or the fact is we have started having provinces endorsing Grace Mugabe to take over as the VP in December, which is, you know, something out of this world. But anyway, it's likely to happen. Where does this leave Sekera Mai, who all along has been said to be, you know, no, he's a dark horse, he's there, Sekera Mai. Jonathan even said the next senior person who's going to succeed is Sekera Mai. You know, he's there. So Grace Mugabe goes there, being vice president. And then opportunity arises. I don't see a coding say, Comrade Sekera Mai, since you've been waiting, come off. Obviously, once she's taken power. So is this also the end of Sekera Mai?
As long as you don't show ambition to be the president, you survive in ZANU. Sekera Mai has not shown an ambition to be president, so it is up to speculation that he would have lost if Dr. Grace becomes the vice president. If he has ambition, he would have definitely lost that particular position. But also, the other thing that people must be clear about is, recently even Mugabe spoke about how do they factor into the constitution the issue of having 3 vice presidents. That Sekera Mai could also still be there. And Dr. Grace will still be there.
We're having 2 vice presidents,
yes.
The vice president representing women.
Yeah. Basically, the future is, the whole issue is, would you trust any other person to protect the interests of the first family if Mugabe to be incapacitated? They don't trust anyone. They don't trust anyone really. So that's the reason why you will have to have Grace there to protect your family and all the other family interests. You see, even if you have Sekarama that you know, even if you've got Pelegezela Mpogo that you know is not even a threat, but you can't leave anything to chance. But if Grace is there sitting on the presidium, it will be difficult for any other action that will be unpleasant to the family to be taken.
So, you know, I've never imagined this, but imagine what December when after the Congress, and she's the vice president, and ZBC saying, the president of Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, has left for China. Meanwhile, Vice President Grace Mugabe is the acting president. President Mugabe was seen off at the airport by Vice President Grace Mugabe.
At the Robert Mugabe
At the Robert Mugabe. Youth had gathered at the Robert Mugabe Square to bid farewell. And soon we shall name Zimbabwe the Republic. I mean,
and students from the Robert Mugabe University
will also. And soon we can name Zimbabwe the Robert Mugabe Republic. I mean,
because it's all about. But then, if you had to look, if I were to read into the Mtambara, Professor Mtambara, who served as the Prime Minister recently in London, he said Mugabe's got basically issues in terms of priority list. First is his family, then is himself, second his family, then ZANU-PF, and fourth being the party. You see, so at this particular present moment, all these things must be read. First, is this thing a threat to his family? If not, find what is it to him or his family? If not, to his party. If not, then to the state. The state is the list of his particular worries. But basically himself, his family, and his party, those are the things that come really first on him. So I believe it was basically quite unstrategic. The loudness of Mnangagwa's supporters, they know the intentions, unless they knew that they wanted him expelled from the party for whatever reason, because they'd already been expelled. If they wanted him expelled, to come and join them outside. But they wanted him to take over power, they should have been a little bit of calm, a little bit, kept their cards closer to their chest. They went quiet, mobilized to make sure that the people remained in the structures, they behaved well, then pulled a shocker on December Congress or whatever. They then pulled a shocker, or even waited for Mugabe to be incapacitated next year or another year, and then Mnangagwa would have been a heir apparent. But the fact that you want to outshine your master, I want to show him that you've got so much power and so much influence with the grassroots against him, it makes him really want to act. You see, so that's why they found themselves. And by look of things from yesterday's events, Mnangagwa was fired perhaps around 3-4, somewhere there yesterday. That's when we got the news. We don't know when he got the news himself. Then today's 9. And nothing has been done, no statements have been issued, none of them have even come out to speak, no generals that we said were backing Emmerson Mnangagwa have spoken, no another person has even, minister has resigned, no MP has resigned. It means they're making overtures, they're trying to move closer to apologize and show the other way to the president. You see.
So we have seen the generals before 2013 and 2008 saying that they were not going to salute anyone who didn't go to war. Now they have a possibility of saluting someone who didn't go to war. In the name of the likely to be vice president.
Yeah, that statement was politically convenient at that particular time to show allegiance. Perhaps they had been thought that they were going to be able to support Tsvangirai at that particular time, so to prove to the appointing authority that you are still loyal to you. And the statement is bound to be changed even in the next few days. You'll hear the generals sing the same tune, the different tune, and now telling you that we follow politics follows the gun. So basically, you can't say you've got much more power, much more influence more than the person appointing you. It has never happened. It has never happened. They are serving the pleasure of the commander-in-chief. In the next minute or even any other time, if he sees fit, he will disappoint them.
So is this, I mean, as we get this to a close, is this, is this the beginning of the end of ZANU-PF? Do you think this will dent ZANU-PF or it will emerge more stronger?
There are a number of scenarios. The first scenario will be the unlikely one if Emmerson Mnangagwa has the support, as they say, goes out, mobilize, be a threat and win the election. That will be the end of ZANU-PF. But by look of things, as I alluded to earlier, that ZANU-PF is changing from the liberation team or the liberation phase to the new, younger, sophisticated people. So, and understanding that even the people that left with Joyce Mchuru, they're already knocking on the doors of ZANU-PF's door. wanting to come in and say, let us come back to this particular party. And the fact that Mugabe still holds the feeding trough. Even the Sobos, the chiefs, the youths in the villages, they still have got the privilege. The fact that you can able to get 10 kgs of fertilizer and sell it and get some money for cheap whiskey, you see, and nothing happens to you. It means ZANU-PF still has got that particular influence, you see. So I see ZANU-PF being re-energized because they're fighting an election also where they want to say, suppose they give a farewell to Robert Mugabe and say, you can't depart from after an election loss. You will depart after an election. It's going to give it all in this particular election. They're going to fight like the last day on this particular world.
So it's like this is the moment where Emmerson Mnangagwa has to prove whether he's really the crocodile or he's just a big lizard. Lastly, do you think, this is an opportunity for the opposition to, pick their pieces and get re-energized? Because at least there's a lot of, disgruntlement within ZANU-PF. There are a lot of people who are not happy, and probably they can do another 2008.
My major crisis is that the opposition is banking on a leadership that is sick in bed, that is not active on the ground, when ZANU-PF is active. And when they know that Mugabe is bound to pull an election shocker, like he did in 2013, you see, and call for an election when they're still ill-prepared. If at this particular present stage, say an election is called in February, and it's 2 or 3 months before, they have not been visible on the ground, but ZANU-PF has been visible on the ground. Their count numbers are going down. You see, so the opposition remains uninspiring. You see, so how do they pick their pieces? How do they mobilize, and how do they motivate the people on the ground? One of the reasons why they are failing even to mobilize people on the ground is because even the alliance issue is spoken to in terms of positions, but not in terms of policies. You see, so what vision and what part of my life do I see being answered by the alliance as an unemployed person? You see, nothing. You see, but I see that so and so will be the deputy president, so and so is going to be the MP. But how does it respond to my needs? So, in a sense, you then say these particular people are content with the ZANU-PF policies, and all that they want are just changing of faces and positions. So, in that particular case, it would be quite difficult to say the opposition can be able to take chance. Unless you are simply saying the opposition that will welcome Mjuru will now be the opposition that will welcome Emmerson Mnangagwa. So in a sense, the opposition becomes ZANU-PF.
But it's an opportunity for these people, Mnangagwa, Emmerson Mnangagwa, Mujuru, Tsvangirai, Welshman, to come together and form a very
but to say Emmerson Mnangagwa, to say Joyce Mjuru, who sat in the Politburo meetings, and Emmerson Mnangagwa, who sat and said the people need to become talks. People need to be Gamma talks at some point. The very same people who said in 2008, after Morgan Tsvangirai had won and fled to Botswana and sat in that Politburo and authorized the injury of the opposition supporters. And you say today you can have them as the face of the democratic struggle. If Joyce and Emmerson were going to be the better faces of the democracy, they should have said in 2008 and say, no, Robert Mugabe lost the election, we quit. But you can't have the very same who want to protect their business interest. Because there will be no change even if, let's say, Mnangagwa gets the opposition and wins the election. How do you want him to reform when he's got the looting to protect? When he's got the people that participated in Kukurauti to protect?
Yeah, so I'm not sure whether Zimbabwe is a thriller or it's a soap, because the plot keeps changing every minute and every second, and we will see how the day ends today and how the day ends tomorrow, and probably Mnangagwa will just move to his farm or leave Zimbabwe and live happily ever after somewhere, or maybe he will come back and be the guy. I talked to someone and he's a very big supporter of Emmerson Mnangagwa, and he said to me, you know what, Mnangagwa needs to be a Jesus. Accept death and hope that death will transform him. So let's hope that, we are not hoping, but let's see whether when we go to the tombstone of Emmerson, we will find that someone says he has risen. So till we meet again tomorrow, have a good day.